The old Higgins farmhouse abandoned, decaying, and according to local legend, hungry. That's exactly what drew Nathan in, an urban explorer with a taste for the macabre. He heard the stories about the cellar and its insatiable pit, but warnings were just invitations to him. Armed with a head-mounted camera and a high-powered flashlight, he found the warped cellar door and pried it open. A gust of still, earthy air hit him, carrying a faint, metallic scent. He clicked on his light, illuminating a steep, stone staircase that plunged into darkness. He took a deep breath, a grin playing on his lips, and descended. The cellar was larger than he expected, a cavern of damp stone and shadows, and there, in the center, was the pit. It wasn't just a hole in the ground. It was a gaping wound in the earth, glowing with a faint, pulsing red light from its depths. It looked alive. As Nathan stepped closer, the air grew cold, and a low hum vibrated through the soles of his boots. Then the whispers started, faint at first, like static, then clearer. A chorus of disembodied voices slithering from the pit. They promised secrets, power, anything he desired. He felt a strange pull, a morbid curiosity urging him forward. That's when he saw the walls. They weren't just stone anymore. Distorted faces, their mouths opened in silent screams, began to press through the surface, their eyes wide with an agony that felt ancient. They weren't threatening him. They were begging him to join them. Nathan let out a nervous laugh, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence. "This is insane," he muttered to his camera, but the laughter died in his throat as a sharp crack echoed through the cellar. A looked down. The stone floor around the pit was splintering. Before he could react, pale, dirt-caked hands erupted from the cracks, grasping, clawing. They weren't ghosts. They were solid, their grip like iron. One latched onto his boot, and he kicked it away with a yell. The whole cellar seemed to groan, the walls themselves beginning to pulse and shift, closing in on him like the throat of some great beast. Dark, thick blood began to ooze from the mortar between the stones, dripping down in syrupy trails. Panic finally set in. This wasn't a legend, it was a trap. He scrambled backward, away from the pit, but the cellar had become a labyrinth. The stairs were gone. Every direction he turned led to another wall of weeping stone and pleading faces. He ran, slipping on the blood-slicked floor. More hands, thin and white like spider legs, shot down from the ceiling, their fingers brushing through his hair. He ducked, spinning around, his flashlight beam cutting wildly through the dark. A hand shot out from the wall beside him, not grabbing, but piercing. A searing pain exploded in his side as impossibly sharp fingers tore through his jacket and shirt. He stumbled away, a dark, wet streak staining his clothes. The pit was in front of him again, wider than before, the whispers now a roaring demand. With a desperate cry, he took a running leap, flying over the glowing chasm and landing hard in a pile of splintered wood and debris on the other side. He'd barely caught his breath when a hand, stronger than the rest, clamped around his ankle. He screamed as he was lifted off his feet, dangling upside down, his head just inches from the pit's pulsating red light. The heat was intense, the smell of sulfur and decay overwhelming. He could see the writhing mass of limbs within the pit, all reaching for him. In a final, desperate act, he swung his heavy flashlight with all his might, smashing it into the knot of hands holding his ankle. There was a sickening crunch, and the hands recoiled with a collective hiss. He fell to the ground, the impact jarring his bones, but he didn't stop. He scrambled on all fours, his eyes locking onto a faint glimmer of light. The stairs, they were back. He clawed his way up the stone steps, not daring to look back as the cellar seemed to exhale a final, hungry sigh behind him. The whispers followed him, promising they'd wait. He burst out of the farmhouse, gasping for the clean night air, and didn't stop running until the house was just a silhouette against the moon. He survived, but he didn't escape. The deep scratches on his body eventually healed, but the jagged, hand-shaped bruise over his heart never faded. It was a brand, a permanent reminder that a part of him had been claimed by the pit. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to his core, that the cellar was still there, still waiting, and still hungry, and someday it would want more.